Showing you guys how to change front struts on a 22 Lincoln Corsair. This also applies to 20, 21, 23, 24 Corsairs, and also the Ford Escapes. Let's get the car jacked up, wheel off, and in the air. Car's jacked up. Jack stand under the support for the control arm, part of the frame right there. 3/4 inch socket works best on these wheels. Here's the strut we're replacing. You got to take a few things off, like this brake line, our ABS sensor line. This clip is just like a tree, it just comes out. There's a little bolt right there. Let's see, 8mm. This is just a little 8mm. Move that to the side. You got to take off these nuts over here. You got to take off these nuts right here. This is best size I found is 13/16. Let's take those off. You don't need to hold the other side because these bolts right here are knurled, so they don't come out that side. You don't need to hold them in place. You just take them out from here. Got some Milwaukee power right there, never been taken off. Get a hammer, knock them out. Don't be scared, they're hard. Don't be scared. Pause. All right, once you knock these two out, we got to take this end link off, the nut off of this end link. So you need a T40 Torx bit, okay? If you don't have this, I mean, I can't do it with the impact, even though I have impacts. Sometimes you can, but in this instance you can't. Hold this nut in 18mm, and let's take this off slowly. Actually, that was too tight to put straight the Torx on it, so let's try 18 first. Okay, so we got it loose with the 18, but it won't come off because this is a ball socket and it spins. So now let's try the T40 bit with the 18mm wrench on it. Let's try it now. Okay, now we got some movement. I actually have the ratchet on tightening and I'm turning the stud inside while the wrench is holding it for me. I don't think that messes up the end link in any way. As long as you do it, you know, slowly. I think if you do it with an impact, they say you might damage it, but I think this is fine. And the wrench holding it, there's not a lot of space for the wrench to move in there. Unless you have a ratcheting wrench, you could go for that, but this is the simplest, easiest method for me. And this is a long stud. All right, once that's off, this nut comes off. That stud is too long to actually come out. No reason to take it out right now, because right now we got to do the 3 bolts on top of the strut. So come into the engine bay. The 3 bolts holding the strut mount are on top. They're right under this. So we got to take this off. But first, there's a bunch of these clips. Look at this clip. See these clips? You're gonna have to take a few of these off. There's one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 6 of them. And these have to come off in order for you to be able to lift this up. Unless, I don't know if the service manual probably calls for taking the wipers off, but that's a lot of work. You don't really need to do all that. You just need to get in here and I'll show you. Let's take this bolt off here. It's 10 millimeter right here. It's not tight, threads into plastic. Then you could, once you take those clips off, this can lift up. This can lift up too. There's actually another bolt here. There's another bolt in here. Try to see it. Let's get a wrench for that. All right, this is a 10 millimeter, and it's a tight fit because, like I said, the wipers are holding down the cowl. Maybe the service manual calls for removing the wipers. That's gonna add a lot more work to this, which I'm not interested in doing. I think I can get it done right from here. So get that bolt out of there. It's 10 millimeter. Then this moves up. Now, do you see these 3 bolts here? 1, 2, and 3. These are 13 millimeter bolts. This is what holds the strut mount to the car. So we're gonna take those off right now. This one you can reach right from the top. Second one's a little bit harder, so we can get in there. I got a ratcheting wrench, so that's great. You could use a short socket because it fits. And for the next bolt, you definitely need a short 13 millimeter. Two. My 13 millimeter, and it's all the way in there. Okay, so for the last few threads, I just took it off by hand. It's pretty tough, and I was holding the strut from the bottom. Oh, so hold on, remember how long that stud was for the end link? Here's where you pull it out, and then the strut comes out. So this is the new strut from the dealer. This is how it comes. It's not a loaded strut. So everything on this one, such as the spring, the dust boot, you know, the top hat, has to be transferred over to this one. And that's a little bit of a task as well. Here are the part numbers, in case you want to pause it right there. One's left, one's right. They're both different. All right, so these are spring compressors. You need these to do this job. You cannot do this job without spring compressors of any sort. There's different kinds. All right, so this is what's going to compress the spring under high pressure, under high tension, pressure. Very dangerous to do it without this. You can't do it. So let's try to compress the spring now. I'm using an impact gun, so I'm very fortunate to have it. You do not need an impact gun. As you saw, you could just do it with a ratchet. It's just a lot of work. All right, pause. All right, so once you see that the spring is loose from the top hat, you know, this will spin no matter what. Don't count on that. Once you see that the spring is loose from the top hat, it's compressed enough, you know, then you can take this nut off. There's an 18 millimeter nut, and there's a 6 millimeter hex that goes inside. I'm gonna try to take it off with my impact, but the shaft spins inside, so let's see. No, it's not gonna come off. So we gotta do it the right way. This is the 18 millimeter. So the 6 millimeter hex goes inside and you hold the 18 millimeter nut. Crank it down. Like I said, be very careful at this point. Make sure that the spring is properly compressed so it doesn't pop on you and hurt something or somebody or yourself. Okay, that's it. You see how nothing moved? Because there's no pressure because I've compressed the spring. Now, you want to be careful, put everything in order. Some cars are different. And some cars have a lot of bushings and things. Top hat. That's the dust boot. There's a bump stop inside, and that's it. So here's the strut. You need this mount because it did not come with our new mount, our new shock. So here's the new shock. Transfer over this rubber. Holds in place. Did you see that the bottom of this actually catches on this lip? So let's do that. Yeah. So keep the dust out. The end of the spring. So the end of the spring sits right here at the end of the perch. Okay? It's going to be a little tough to put everything back together right because the spring is a little deformed because it's compressed. And the top hat, you can see where the end of the spring was. I like to put it exactly where it was. So the end of the spring is here. So I'm gonna line it up with that part. Since I did not buy new top hats. And then we get our nut back. And tighten it to where you can. And then same procedure, I guess reverse. That's nice. Make sure spring is there. Make sure the top spring is lined up, bottom spring is lined up. This moves, so you don't have to worry about the orientation of this until it goes back in the car. But there is a spot, if you look here, there is a spot in the car on top that this lines up with. And the bolts will not line up any other way, so you won't be able to get that wrong. So don't worry about the orientation of this right now. Let's uncompress this spring now that this is secure. Now what? Let's do this on the floor because this is spinning around. All right, so you see the spring is lined up on the bottom, sitting properly at the top. The nut is secure, and that's it. Your strut is assembled. Time to go back in the car. I had to pull the strut back out to line it up on top. It was actually pretty tough. Well, once it's lined up, put 2 bolts in, hold it in place. Then, like I said, this is longer, so to get it in, just turn the strut over to the side and then it goes in. That's the best way I found to put it in, because there's some stress on the sway bar. So let's put the nut on this, just so it doesn't come back out on us. And let's put the knuckle back in place. So let's put the nuts back to the strut and the knuckle. Let's hit these in place. Hit them in. Yep. Remember, always take off the nut side. Never take off this side. In this case, this is knurled, so it won't come off from this side. You have to take the nut off and hit the stud through. Best size I found for these is a 13/16. This is an 18. Let's see if we could tighten it. Since it's a ball stud, I doubt it, but let's go for it. It worked. If not, you got to do the same procedure. In my case, the impact was good enough, and I don't need to do that. All right, let's put, this is the ABS line, wheel speed sensor. This is your brake line. Remember, this was 8mm. And this ball stud was a T40. Let me make sure, T40. So if you guys need to do it that way, the way I took it off, the T40, remember? And never tighten this with an impact. If you do, you will strip it, 100%. Okay, that's in. That's tight. These two are tight. Wheel speed sensor is good. Everything here is good. Let's put the wheel back on. Jack it up. Take the jack stand off. Take the jack off. Once it's on the ground, let's tighten up those 3 bolts that hold this to the chassis. Ready? Go. So just hand started all the bolts here. 2 were already on just to hold it in place. This is one of the hardest parts, honestly, reaching these bolts. The one in the back is the hardest. And believe me, the other side is much easier. Ratcheting wrench fits good here. It's a 13mm. Snug. Don't over tighten these. There's no reason to. And I told you for the back one, you need to use a socket because it goes in. That's the hardest one to get back there. You basically can't see what you're doing, you're just feeling for it. Okay. 10 millimeters goes here. If you can look under there, it bolts right in to hold this cover in place. That's what we took off to gain access. And this is a 10 millimeter. Okay, that's tight. You don't have to go crazy because that's plastic. So that's in, it's holding one. The next bolt goes here. Okay, these are the clips I told you about. So push on this down and push it in. That holds the cowl in place. So I had to take all of them off to be able to lift it up enough to get access to the strut mount bolts. And that's it. The struts are installed in a 2022 Lincoln Corsair. Like I said, this also applies to Ford Escapes and other model years of this vehicle. Thank you.